Hey guys, it's Mike with the BucketList Mob. Today we're going to talk about injection. We're going to talk about the old engine and the new engine for Dragweek, and the fact that we didn't learn our lesson in running mechanical injection at Dragweek. So let's get into it. So a little about the Fairlane. The engine that we ran in Dragweek of 2019 was a 331 Ford small block with Enderley injection on E85. The engine was fully tested and vetted out, and we had all our ducks in a row. We had dyno tested it multiple times, and we're ready for Dragweek.
Liar.
No, we weren't. We literally got the car together 4 hours later than it was supposed to be leaving to go to Dragweek in Virginia. So there's that. This year we're hoping to do something a little different. It's about 6 weeks until Dragweek, and we have a complete engine.
World-class liar.
No, we don't. We do have an engine up at Griff's machine up in Sandusky. It's a 557. The short block was built by CNC Motorsports. The heads are TFS A460 heads that are slightly reworked, and they have been gone through by Griff's up there, and they're doing the final assembly. In the meantime, I need to get this injection sorted out and all the parts that are necessary taken care of so that I can take it up and mount it on the engine and we can get it dynoed. One of the things we had on 2019 is the car ran fantastic on the road as far as the manners for the engine. We had all kinds of troubles with bolts coming loose, new car blues. So much so that we didn't get to our hotel the first night until 9 o'clock in the morning, but that's another story.
I am so tired.
Right now I'm going to finish making my hoses for the injection, and I'm going to kind of go over some of the things that we did on this engine in order to be able to have mechanical injection on a 385 series engine. During Dragweek, towards the end, we were not doing very well. We had found out that we had tweaked our spool valve arm, and the spool valve is the fuel adjustment mechanism in relationship to where the butterflies are in the throttle bodies that does your enrichment. We had messed with that arm and got it lean. I thought we were rich. We had an O2 sensor that wasn't working in the car, so we couldn't tell what was going on. We struggled and we struggled. Every race, it ran worse and worse and worse. It was
devastatingly slow,
as Freiberger would put it. So, second to the last day on the drive, when we finally started seeing other Dragweekers, we were talking to another Dragweeker talking about some issues with the injection, and he had pointed out that the screen filters in the mechanical injection or even the electric fuel injection will look like they're clear, but they're actually not. And he talked about doing a water test where you can look through the filter and it is showing as clear, but when you put water in it, nothing comes out. So I took apart that filter to check when we got to the hotel that night, and sure enough, we had gotten the wrong filter from Jegs. So with mechanical injection, you cannot run a paper filter. It's explicit, do not run a paper filter. We had a paper filter in the car. So I put it back together, ordered some parts for the next hotel, which was the last day from Jegs. They shipped it there overnight, and we run the last race without a filter in it, which is probably a big no-no, but we had to test. Immediately we picked up 2 seconds on the ET, which is still slow. So we made it to the hotel that last night. We got our parts at 10 o'clock in the morning. The guy slept in. I went in and changed the filter out, and we picked up 4 seconds. So not real fast anyways. The car should have run 11s, but the best we could muster was a 1321 with a fouled plug on number 7. So after Dragweek, we were the only people that have ever made it all the way through Dragweek with mechanical injection. Like I said, it ran great on the street. The manners were wonderful. We got E85. We still got 6.5 miles per gallon, towing a trailer with 4 guys in the car. And it was an amazing, memorable experience. So we worked to go to Dragweek again in 2020. Well, 2020, you know what happened? 2021, I got you know what, so we couldn't go. 2022, my engine builder closed his doors after taking my $8,000 down payment and a whole lot of other people's down payments, upwards of almost $300,000. If you have an idea who this guy is, then you can get a hold of me. We have a group together that's on an email string that we're trying to get our money back. I don't think we're going to, but we're trying. So I'm going to go over the injection a little bit and some of the things that we did. We had a choice between an FE series, like like the 428, 390, 427, or going to a 385 series, which is the 429, 460. I could get mechanical injection. We wanted to keep mechanical injection because the car's known for that. I think it's cool. It's brutally difficult, but cool is better than not cool.
Duh.
We decided on a 385 series because a stock block can be taken out to 557 on stroke and bore, and that's what we got. We got a 557, and then it's time to start searching for mechanical injection. So I scoured Facebook Marketplace and eBay like I always do. I spent way too much time on there. And I found an injection unit that kind of looked like it might fit because nobody makes the mechanical injection anymore for the 460 engines. Kinsler made it. They could make me another one, but it's wide open on when they would ever even get to it. I couldn't wait for it. So I thought, well, I will just find an intake that's close, and I'll make adapters for between the intake manifolds and the heads, and that'll get us going. I found an injector set off of eBay, and it had been listed as injection for a DRCE-Ols, and then you guys know what those are. That's the Pro Stock engine that they ran in, I think, the 90s and 2000s. And when I started looking at some of the specs, because the ports kind of looked similar and the bolt holes kind of looked similar, and the bore center line spacing was 4.9 inches, just like 460. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to risk it. I picked them up for $1,100, which is pretty darn cheap for injection. Got them home, and turns out the castings are actually for a Ford 460. It's a Kinsler casting. I mean, I completely lucked out. Problem is, they were extensively modified, so they were welded on the front and on the back, on the bottom, because the DRCE heads are taller, the ports are taller, they're raised. Completely not going to fit the engine without some machine work. So I machined those intake manifolds down so that I could fit and the ports would match. And the other problem I had was now I got to come up with a valley cover. Kinsler had a valley cover on their website. They don't make that anymore, so I'm kind of stuck. So I said, well, I have the capabilities and the machine shop to be able to do it. Let's just make our own. So we did. The injection has 2 spool valves, one for race and one for street. The street setup has the normal secondary bypass and very small injectors, limited at 300 horsepower, because if I have the injectors that are rated for 800 horsepower running on the street at 300 level, they just kind of dribble, they don't squirt out. So we run a much smaller injector for the street setup and a different spool valve that brings in that fuel a little bit slower, which should make it much more drivable. A little bit more about the injection. again showing you the injection bungs that I had manufactured here at work. Made these and holds the street injectors in it. You look up at the top, you can see the street injectors. Open the throttle and you can see the race injectors underneath. So in order for it to clear, this butterfly has to rotate to this position, and then that means that this butterfly needs to rotate that position. In order to do that, they have to be opposite sides. You see how the lever is up atop here and down the bottom here. It's about a difference of, I think, 23 degrees is a kind of a number to get where you bottom against the stops for the injection at close, and they open up both at the same time. So I can kind of show you that. That timing is critical. Also in that timing that's critical is the spool valve. So back here, I put the spool valve for the street on the back side to make it easier for us to get to. You can see it has an adjustable arm, so I can make this a little less sensitive then, and change the ratio of the arm, and see how that operates. And then you can also see in front of it the race injection spool valve. That one has it's a little harder to get to, but that's okay. Every adjustment we're going to make on that after the fact would be outside of this system, and it would be only with the pills. So you can kind of see the spool valve. You can see where I machined the head. I made this so this has an O-ring on it, and this is our setup for Dragweek. Kind of see, I think it's pretty cool. Today we're going to finish making the hoses. So I have most of the hoses partially completed. I didn't have enough parts to finish them up. You can see they go from the street setup, they kind of go up and across and over to make a nice smooth transition. So these don't have the O-rings in them. I only had enough clamps to do the these four right here. I ran out. So I've got some more parts from Alky Digger, and we're going to finish those up today. So really quickly, if this gets in focus. So I'm using these clamps that are clamped on with this. I press these on, give it a little squeeze. Done. Another little squeeze. Done. And that's good to go. Last thing, I'm going to, I received an order from Alky Digger. Mike over there is great for new throttle arms. You can kind of see that this throttle arm right here doesn't quite fit the shaft. This throttle arm is actually for a 5/16 shaft. This behemoth has 3/8 shafts, so this is not going to do. So I've got two. Then I've one for the throttle, one for the TV cable on the AOD. I think what I'll do is I will put since this is down here and that's where the TV cable will go, as I pull the throttle, I'm going to put the throttle side in first and make sure that the throttles are closed-ish. And I'll make my fine adjustments on there, but I just want to kind of like look and see that everything fits okay. Put the TV cable on here, so that when you hit the throttle, it pulls the TV cable for the AOD. So I have a couple things to make. I need to drill a stop here so that I have my throttle stop for the retract, and then I need to do the same on this bracket that I've designed. It's in CAD. I've ordered the material. I'll make that part this coming week, and hopefully I can get my fittings that I forgot to order and my throttle bracket taken care of. And then the next episode we'll do the fuel system on the front, and that is going to get pretty complex because it's 4 lines for the race setup. So you've got one that goes to the spool valve, one is your bypass that has your pill in it, one that is a high-speed bypass in case we need it. I'm not sure. Where when the motor's really spinning, that it's building so much fuel pressure and it's flowing so much fuel that you can richen up by accident in the high RPMs. So that will be a high-speed bypass that will dump off some fuel if we need that. And then a bypass that's made for the trans brake. So it's an electric solenoid that's fired the same time as you fire the solenoid for the trans brake. And it's got a pill in it also to dump off extra fuel, because when you're wide open, that spool valve doesn't sense load on the engine. It thinks it's going down the road when you're only at 3,000 or 4,000 RPM at the launch. So that will bypass the extra fuel when you hit the trans brake button. The street setup has only 2 inputs coming from the pump. It will be to the spool valve and then a bypass that is actually built into the car. I ran it in Dragweek in 2019 that has adjustable pill settings. It's called a Dial-A-Jet. There's 8 pills in it, so that we'll run that on the dyno, see what pill it takes, and then we'll put a spread of pills higher and lower. So going down the road, if it's not quite running as smoothly as you think, you click over to the next highest or next lowest jet to get the fuel mixture right. You don't need that for the racing because it's just wide open. The car ran beautifully on Dragweek 2019 on the road. That setup worked great, so we're going to continue using that setup. So I don't know anybody else that's using 2 spool valves. I made a schematic and I sent it to Mike at Alky Digger, and he kind of reviewed it, said, hey, that should work. And that's why you see this spaghetti mess of hoses. It looks ridiculous. To me, it kind of looks cool. When you look at it, it looks like it's hard to see what's going, but when you dig down to the individual components, then it's easier to understand. So yeah, so look for us the next episode. We'll go over the fuel system on the front of the engine. It'll be up here, taking care of all of this. You kind of see I've 3D printed a fuel pump mount. You've got the inlet, and then you've got a shut-off valve here that turns the fuel off, and then I've got a directional valve here that runs either the race setup will come out of here and the street setup will come out of here. So we'll go over that and the regular fuel system in the next video. So like and subscribe for more content. We're just 5 guys trying to work together to achieve some of our bucket list goals. What's on your bucket list that you could do now? Don't wait. Thanks.